Hey guys, this is Jessica with Core Creations, and yesterday I did a video on a side-by-side comparison of different chocolate melts for dipping cake pops, and today we're going to actually talk about different methods and how to make your cake pops, and also an experiment of my own on different shapes. So you have a few different recommended methods on making cake pops. You of course have something that looks like a waffle iron. I didn't really care for this. Actually, a lot of my cake maybe, seemed simple enough, but a lot of my cake pops were coming out mushroom shaped. So while it only takes a couple minutes, I was losing a lot of time and a lot of material using that method. And of course, I'm all about saving time and money. So ultimately, forewent that and then tried the molds, which the only difference is you use your own oven, and then the excess, this would be the top, and then the excess batter comes out of the top. These weren't that bad, but I didn't really, get them out. Even oiled and greased, I didn't find it to be the easiest method either. But what I was finding interesting enough was I make a lot of cakes, and I have to cut down those cakes, trim them, and shape them before icing them, and it was leaving me with quite a bit of leftover cooked cake. So I did a little research, and actually that's one of the most common ways to make cake pops is take any pan. I use this 8x8x3 by Last Confection in order to make mine. Normally I use moisture strips around, because what you typically find when cooking a cake, you end up with caramelized ends, and that's something you'd want to trim off before making breaking it up to make your cake pops, because it's going to be harder to mold. Actually, this pan actually alleged that it evenly cooked and would prevent from caramelization, so I tried it without the wet strips with my recipe, and it was great. It actually is very moist cake. This was made last night. So I would recommend that pan. I got it off of Amazon. It was very reasonably priced. I think under 10 bucks. So what we're going to do is and I'm going to be making quite a bit of videos in the foreseeable future, because one of the things I would like to do is, in light of all this chaos going on in our country, I would actually like to do some desserts that are patriotic and really bring us together as a country. So all of this is going to lead up to the finished products, and that's going to be cake pops, cookies, chocolate molds, and everything that are patriotic, and hopefully keep us in good spirits and we all get through this. So you just want to put your pre-baked, if this is the method you decide works best for you. Just put your pre-made cake into any container and start breaking it up. And give it, ooh, it smells so good. That's my problem. I always get high on my own supply. I'm sure this yields a lot more cake pops than actually come out in the end, because I'm always finding myself eating them. But our experiment today is naturally the most common two shapes for cake pops are round and also kind of like a Easter eggy shape if you want to do flowers. But I'm gonna see if we can make different shapes and see how well that works out. Okay, so got our batter, and then once you have it well crumbled like so, you want to add frosting. Now I have done both store-bought and homemade cake batter. I haven't found a difference. Obviously, I'd love to say that my cakes, from a taste standpoint, I perhaps would disagree, but from a consistency, keeping it together, you know, is it gonna please people? I haven't found a difference in store-bought versus homemade. So if it's easier just to grab a box and stick it in the oven to generate cake pops, I believe a box is gonna give you, if you make them on the standard side, about 24 cake pops or so. And then you want to take your icing, and again, store-bought or homemade icing. Now with the American buttercream, if you're gonna home make it, you do need to thin it a little bit. If you have a question on how to do that, leave in the comments section. Happy to help aid your efforts. So we're just going to take a couple tablespoons here and go to town on, we'll add a little more. Why not make them super moist? Because the one thing you want them to form and keep their shape, and since we're going to try and make some interesting shapes here, I think I want to try and get them a little bit more compact than they ordinarily need to be. So this is the first time, and that's the beauty about my channel is, you know, I've tried a lot of methods. I'm still learning myself, and you know, I love to experiment and have fun with it. I think it's a great stress reliever, and now that we've found ourselves essentially quarantined, bring out the baker in yourself. You know, me getting into it, you know, occurred a few months ago. Believe it or not, couple things occurred to propel me into the baking direction. Not that I had an exorbitant amount of time on my hands to fill with a slot of a hobby, but my daughter turned 1 in December, and I ordered a cake from Publix and was sadly disappointed in the snowflakes, because the theme was Winter Wonderland. These snowflakes look like asterisks, and you have to pay $60 for a sheet cake to get the smash cake for free. So well, it might not quite have been that much, maybe $50, but still, you expect quality workmanship for that amount of money, especially when the cakes come to the store pre-made. And then even the writing was different. So, it occurred to me we're a dying generation. I'm in my mid-30s, and not sure what generation I am. Technically, I border millennial, but I steer clear and take offense being classified in the millennial generation, because I dial up, baby. I didn't have a cell phone until I was an adult. I got knocked off the phone line. You got knocked off your instant messenger if someone called the house line, for first world problems as a kid of our generation. But so we have a nice big ball created from our cake pop. That's exactly what. Now again, I've made it a little more dense with the frosting, only because we're gonna make some interesting shapes here. So I wanted it more like dough, so it would keep those shapes. Give it a nice little taste test. Tastes good. Very nice. Okay, so gonna drop our batter down here. I'll move it so you guys get the benefit of seeing. So there's a few things I want to talk about are how to get the sizing of your standard cake pop. A lot of people use a lot of different methods. They take a couple teaspoons. Actually, interesting enough, 15 milliliters is a tablespoon. So if you have a 30 milliliter or an eighth of a cup, that accomplishes the same versus having to use 2. So, well, this is actually a half of a tablespoon. So, imagine this is a tablespoon. This is 2 tablespoons. I actually found this duster on Amazon. Turn it, which actually is very comparable in size. And then also these meatball. I've not yet to open this one. This one's a monster one. So I reserved that for another day. But however you decide to scoop out and measure, it seems like, between a tablespoon and 2 tablespoons appear to be everyone's general sizing guide. We're gonna try it a couple. I actually thought of a So we're gonna take 2 tablespoons here, since that's what I've heard is the most common sizing. Okay, so yeah, that's a good size, not too big, seems manageable. Now, the method as far as getting it round, I've heard to cup your hands. But as you can see, it's kind of forming more of a dreidel type effect. I am not the best at perfecting anything round, so a couple techniques. Let's powder this up that I've thought of that could help when dealing with being shape challenged like I am. Let's see if a round ball helps. Let's see what this does for us in forming an actual round. Oh, wow. So I would highly recommend the double bowl method. Just put them together like that and just go around. Because obviously it's hitting all of the round surfaces and really able to form that roundness. So that was a great idea. So we're going to set this bad boy aside here for a minute. I'm going to talk also about storage and along the same lines of the rolling method. In fact, since we're going to be dipping, let's try a few different sizes too. This appears to be one of the smallest. So let's see what makes the perfect dipping, because obviously the weight of the cake pop itself is going to affect the roundness, what works. I want to make sure it's as perfectly round as possible. So let's take that out of here. So yeah, you can see that one just made about two tablespoons worth. So let's see what happens see if we can just stick it in here without even starting to round it first, and how it comes out. Because that would definitely save time and effort. Yep. So even without giving it a good start, we're already there. So let's bet we can get this done. So I'm gonna do, we only need to make a few for, oh, and we're gonna make a couple different shapes. So we're gonna store this for another time. So we have our small one. We're gonna make a couple more standard ones. All right. I'm gonna one more. Seems easy enough. All right. And then we've got a few cake pops. So let's see if we can make a few unique shapes of our own. I thought, given patriotic, let's try a star. All right, so this seems to be going well. All right, so we have ourselves a star cake pop. Let's do one more. And then we'll put, well, you know what? Let's do a couple. I'm optimistic. I think we're gonna nail this experiment. I really do. And you can grease, you know, these happen to be, like fondant. I think they're defined as fondant cutters, or, you know, they're just much smaller. It's actually a cool set. It comes in like a nesting of your basic shapes. So I found it handy if you want to cut out like the center or around a cookie, and that's something we're gonna do later this week with the star. We're gonna use a heart cookie and cut out a star from its side, which I think is cool. So let's scrape off the excess. All right. Let me give my, oh, candy melts a quick stir. I did go ahead and melt those in advance just for being able to glue. Now, you'll hear there's all sorts of different size sticks for your candy or for your cake pops. Use the ones that make the most sense, but if you're looking to save money and time, go with the larger ones. You can always color them, cut, you know, the large white ones. You can always cut them down. You can always make them smaller, color them any way you want, but you can't grow them. So the best investment initially is the largest ones they make, which I think it's about 11 inches. And that's when I whip out my towel, and that's what she said, because that's my favorite cooking towel ever. So let's push this last star pop cake out of its mold. All right, now we got ourselves, now we're in business. Got ourselves some cake pops working. Now in the next step, we will need to take our sticks and dip them. And also another thing I found, you know, from time savings with a full-time family job, I don't have the time to sit there and wash and do 20 million. I mean, my God, it is amazing the dishes and everything that will pile up as a result of cooking and baking. So any disposable, inexpensive item I can find, these work great to mix, to color. They're just great. And you can throw them away and don't have to clean. So what we're gonna do right now is glue our sticks to our cake pops using, now remember, I've reserved judgment on which candy coating is gonna work the best when dipping these cake pops, but we did determine that Wilton was the thickest, so, and it hardens quickly, so I've gone ahead and melted some of that to serve as our glue. Now, I will point out that, once you've put the stick on your cake pop, hey, where do I put them? There's several different methods to store your cake pops. A lot of people invest in something like this that you can, just for demonstration purposes, stick the stick in, whatnot. Or, but even this thing, like $12. But what I have had, two things around the house. I don't know how I seem to accumulate gardening foam. I think projects of student activities past, but You can also just take the foam and there you have it. Cover it in saran wrap in case any drippings. But yeah, I mean, anything that you can use. I mean, even a jar with, like, let's say a jar, put some granulated sugar, there you go. I mean, it's not rocket science. Use whatever you have on hand. You don't have to go out and buy anything fancy. Or because if you want them upright, if you intend to have them upright, and I'll show you, if someone's interested in a tutorial on how to make them look the best, from a downward presentation standpoint, love to do that video. But my method for cake pops is, I am afraid with my kids, animals knocking stuff over, I store them flat in a sealed container, sideways with parchment paper, nice and armored and protected from catastrophe written all over the place. So let's go ahead and dip our cake pop. I'm gonna work it in there. Now, if you want it flat, just go around and flatten it. And you may notice also that your cake pop may have some cratering, or it's not, it's got some cracks in it. Most of the smaller cracks will be covered by the coating. I always like to just go through with a little paintbrush, taking the chocolate melt and covering, just to get that perfect roundness. So we'll lay that one down, and then we'll move on to scrape off the excess on the side. You want to go perhaps 1/3 of the way through. You definitely do not want to pierce through the other side. Just get to the center of gravity. Really make sure it's stable and it's gonna hold. Give it the shake test. And here's a perfect example of, I don't know if you can see it, crack. I'm gonna go ahead and coat. But actually, so I'm gonna finish coating these, and once they're fully coated, you want to have them hang out for a couple minutes to fully dry before dipping. remember from my video yesterday, we have our 4 different kinds with the Melton as well. So we're gonna try dipping them all using our different varieties and see if our unique shape holds up. And also we are going to dye for see how well each variety holds up to being colored. So until next time, I hope you have enjoyed and I've left you wanting more, and just always remember to bake from your core.